Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my new video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about Ukraine. I haven't spoken about Ukraine and Russia for a while. So let's start. Before I carry on, guys, don't forget to watch the video all the way to the end. Like and share, subscribe if you can. Without further ado, let's carry on. So Trump is using his famous diplomatic skills to deal with Putin. As you can see here, he's using swear words, he's using threats, he's using the carrot and stick method, and he tried the carrot, now he's using the stick. He's using words like bull. I'm not going to say the word in case this channel gets demonetized, but you can see it from the title. And so why is he like this? Because last few months Trump has been very nice to Putin. He's been saying some nice words. In fact, he's been actually quite nasty to Zelensky, which was quite a shock. And looks like he's turning his tables now. And he's turning the tables because he can see that Ukraine is losing, Russia is winning, and he tried to do a ceasefire with Russia. It hasn't worked, and he sees that Putin doesn't respect him. He's carrying on with Ukraine as normal, and the main thing is Trump is getting frustrated. He's not getting his way. So if people that know Trump very well, people knows that Trump is a man that gets his way. Throughout his life, he's always got his way. Even during bankruptcy, he's got his way. In the Trump Apprentice TV show, he's always got his way. And in his first term, he's pretty much got most of the stuff in his way, apart from a few hiccups. Mostly in his first term, he did get his way, most of the time, not everything, by the way. So he's not getting his way with Putin here. And it's really frustrating him. So he's basically now he's lashing out and he's basically using swear words and things like that. So he started to basically talking about sending weapons to Ukraine again. So weapon shipments had been suspended for a number of weeks. So now he's starting to send again. And from the reports I've seen, the weapons he's sending to Ukraine are not much. I'm reading reports about 10 Patriot missiles or something. I mean, 10 Patriot missiles, guys, it's gonna disappear within a day, maybe even an hour. All it takes is a couple of drones, and they just can fire off these 10 Patriot missiles. Or even if kind of Russia sends over a couple of jets, these Patriot missiles are not going to be able to stop Russia's advance. So I don't know what Trump is doing here. So there is a bigger picture happening. There is a bigger picture. I mean, I get the sense that in Trump's first term, he was kind of respected around the world. You can see a lot of countries were respecting him. He was respected, even though he was harsh, but he was fair. Countries kind of did respect him. People respected the fact that he was America first, and whatever he was doing, there was some sense to it. There was some logic to it. However, in his second term, there is no such respect. No country respects Trump right now, apart from Israel. And the reasons countries don't respect him because people can see that he's a puppet. He's not America first anymore. He's doing a lot of stuff you know, he's doing a lot of stuff which is strange, doesn't make any sense. He's doing stuff for Israel. He's doing stuff for the deep state, and he's doing stuff for his friends to make money. He doesn't look like he's doing anything for America first, not even one bit. And the recent Epstein files has proved that. And Trump is losing a lot of respect around the world, not only from his own MAGA backing as well, but also from the rest of the other countries. Trade, for example, he admitted that more than 100 countries have not even responded to his trade threats. So he's threatening to send them a letter. Apparently that's his trade deal. They'll send him a letter. So over 100 countries have not even responded back or not even called back regarding his trading, deals and stuff. So that shows, more than 100 countries do not respect him. He thinks that he thought that he can end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. Famously, he said, and obviously it hasn't really worked out like that. He thought he could get his way with Putin, and that hasn't worked. And the reason he hasn't got his way with Putin because Putin doesn't trust Trump. Nobody trusts Trump. I mean, I can give you some examples. He was negotiating with Iran on pure faith, and in the middle of the negotiation, he lets Israel bomb Iran. I mean, what kind of, trust is that going to build to the rest of the world? Nothing, right? Absolutely nothing. He says one thing and he does something completely different another day. He'll wake up one day, put all these tariffs and sanctions on you, and the next day he'll be like, "Oh, we're the best of friends." He's playing the two-faced game here. He says he gets along with Putin, he gets along with Xi, but that is not the case. He's threatening Putin and he's threatening Xi. A recording came out today, and in this recording, I think he was basically bragging to his donors. He was saying, "Oh, if Putin goes into Ukraine, then he's going to bomb Moscow. If Xi goes into Taiwan, he's going to bomb Beijing." He was saying that, in his own words. This recording was just being sent out live. So, has he got the guts to bomb Moscow? I don't think so. Has he got the guts to bomb Beijing? I don't think so. So he says a lot of threatening things to other world leaders, and then he suddenly calls them friends. I mean, come on, guys. I mean, is your friend gonna threaten to bomb your house and bomb you and kill you? I mean, that is not friends. That is not friendly behavior. The only friend he has in this world is Netanyahu, and he would never say anything like that to Netanyahu. Never. And you had Netanyahu coming into the White House, and you see how friendly Trump is towards him, and he calls him the greatest man in the world. He says Israel is the greatest country in the world. Second is United States. That's his own words. And it's all over Twitter. If you don't believe me, you just type it in, and it's almost embarrassing, guys. It's just embarrassing. And when he talks to Putin and Xi, he doesn't, he says, "Oh, we're the best of friends. We really get along." And then behind their backs, he's threatening them, threatening to bomb Beijing, threatening to bomb Moscow. Well, let's see, if that happens, let's see what happens. There is no way in hell America would go to war with Russia or China. So again, he is not trusted around the world. Countries are not trusting him. They don't really take him seriously, like the trade deals, for example. The only trade deals he's managed to get, from what I know, is Vietnam, Israel, um, Great Britain, which is not really a trade deal. He has not even got a trade deal with China, by the way. They are still in discussions. That is not a trade deal. And that's about it, really. All the other countries haven't even bothered. They haven't even bothered with the United States. So it just shows that United States standing in the world is going down. Trump's standing is going down. People do not care about the United States anymore. I mean, United States has made its bed and is lying in it. They've made their bed with Netanyahu and Israel, and the rest of the world just doesn't like it. I mean, it's just double standards here. They talk about human rights, yet they're happy for Israel to commit mass genocide on the Palestinians. It's just double standards, guys. Double standards everywhere, and people around the world, governments around the world, have had enough. They really have had enough. The dollar is falling, as you can see, and Trump is stuck at the moment. The dollar is falling, um, and he wants to lower the interest rates. But if he lowers the interest rates, the dollar's going to fall even more, and inflation's going to shoot back up. So is that what he wants? Inflation to start shooting back up? He doesn't really care about his base, his MAGA base. If inflation shoots up, who suffers? It's mainly the people that suffer. But he doesn't care about that. As long as his business is pay lower interest rates, that's all he cares about. He's talking about Fed to lower the interest rates by 3 basis points. That's just gonna destroy the dollar, and the inflation is gonna go into double digits overnight if that happens. He doesn't really understand economics. He doesn't understand trade. He doesn't understand economics. He doesn't understand anything by the looks of it. You can see by the letters he writes to these countries. These letters have got so many grammatical errors. And this is a letter to another country, another head of state. And he's got, capital letters everywhere. He's got commas all over the place. His sentences don't even, he's almost like written by a 2-year-old child. But even a 2-year-old child will probably write a better letter than that. Yeah, it's embarrassing how far America has fallen, to be honest, over the last few years. Even 5 years ago, they probably had a lot more respect around the world than they have now. And it's over, guys. It's over. With all these trade deals and trade failures that United States is doing, all it is doing is pushing countries away from the dollar. So all of these tariffs and sanctions he's placing, all these 30% tariffs. I mean, today he's added all these other extra tariffs on other countries. What's that's going to do? All that's going to do is these countries are just going to push away from the dollar. They're going to trade with other countries more. They're going to trade with China more. And if they do that, they'll have less need for the dollar. They don't need to hold the dollar anymore. So the dollar is going to go down. Bond prices are going to go down because if countries are trading less with the dollar, then they don't need the dollar as much. So if they don't need the dollar as much, they're not going to buy bonds or American shares or American properties. So bond prices are going to go down. So whichever way you look at it, it's just not looking good, guys, for the American economy, and it's heading to a major recession by the looks of it. Major stagflation, stagflation where you're going to have higher inflation, but in a recession environment, and looks like that's going to be happening. The last time that happened was in the 1930s, where they had a major depression. So it looks like it's heading along that way. And this is why nobody really trusts America anymore. They don't trust the dollar. They don't trust Trump's word. Whatever Trump says, one day he'll just break it the next day. It just depends on his mood. And the fact that these guys are just, you know, who have been the leaders of who have been the leaders of human rights and the good versus the bad. They've always been standing for American right and justice and all of that. Here they are, just helping fund a genocide with Netanyahu, and he's making big friends with Netanyahu. And anything that can make Israel look bad, they won't do it. They won't release the Epstein files. They just won't do it. The JFK files, they won't tell you that Israel had something to do with it. They'll never ever say anything like that. So the Zionists and the Jews have completely taken over the American system, completely, in every single way, from the government, the Senate, the Congress, the media, the companies, all, things like BlackRock, Vanguard, Disney, Warner Brothers. They've all been run by Jews. So the Americans have been completely brainwashed. The churches have been completely taken over by the Jews, and most of these Christians have now become Christian Zionists, and the whole sector, whole American society has been completely taken over by Jews and Zionism, and they're like a parasite, and they're gonna run America dry. And once America has nothing left, they'll go to the next host. That's what they do. So it's just a shame Americans can't see it. I mean, some people can see it. If you go on X, there are certain people who are raising the awareness and stuff like that. But just not enough, guys. Just not enough. So let's talk about Ukraine, shall we? So I was drawing this map um, of Ukraine, and obviously, Putin has said recently that he wants to take all of Ukraine. I don't think he will want to take all of Ukraine, mainly because it's going to be very expensive for Russia. So I don't think he wants to do that. And also, there is a huge number of Ukrainians who are always going to fight against Russian occupation and stuff. So this is the map I've kind of drawn actually. So I think this is probably what's looking more realistic. And the reason I've drawn this is because, first of all, I think they will take Kharkiv. I think that will be the Sumy region, and I think they will take Kharkiv, the Sumy region first. And I think they will go all the way to the Dnieper River, go all the way to Kiev. I haven't, I don't think Putin has decided whether to take Kiev or not. He might do, but he might not as well. I'm not 100% sure. I think they might go all the way next to Kiev. That's probably more realistic. But the main thing that I think Putin wants and Russia wants, and I think the main thing that will absolutely freak out the West is Odessa, and this is and all of this Odessa area, I think, is the main thing that probably will decide whether NATO joins the war or not. And I think one of the reasons Putin hasn't taken Odessa yet is because of NATO. And I think, you know, there's a lot of evidence that there's a lot of French troops, British troops, and NATO troops already in Odessa. And I think if Putin decides to go into Odessa, I think NATO might join in. And already you can see NATO flights, I believe. Yeah. So you can see NATO scrambles fighter jets after intense Russian bombings. So already NATO has been kind of in around the Odessa area. They've been sending out fighter jets in and around the Odessa area as well. And I think that is going to be a major kind of fight for Odessa. The West will want to keep Odessa at all costs. The French, the British, the Americans, they want to keep Odessa for many reasons, and I'll explain the reasons. Number one is, that is their final access to the Black Sea, and they need that. The West needs that desperately, and that is their final access to the Black Sea. And also, if Putin takes Odessa, and Ukraine becomes landlocked, which means Ukraine cannot do any exports or imports via the sea, and they will lose a huge chunk of their GDP, and the West will have to pay for Ukraine's economy after that. If Ukraine becomes landlocked, it's over for the economy basically, because 70-80% of Ukraine's trade goes through the Black Sea, and if that's blocked, then Ukraine basically becomes a dead state, and the Europeans will have to be picking up the bill, paying for Ukraine's economy after that. The other reason is Britain and France has got a number of ports in Odessa. So if they lose Odessa, they lose these ports. Britain has spent billions developing these ports. I believe there's about 3 ports Britain has. So they will lose that port. French will lose some ports as well, and NATO has many kind of ports, secret ports in that area as well. So the other reason is if Russia takes Odessa, then other countries like Moldova, Romania, Bulgaria will become Russian friends in the future because the, these countries will be able to there's a canal, I believe, going from Moldova, from Romania, going all the way to the Black Sea. So these canals will be going via Odessa, which means they'll have to have relationships with Russia for them to go through Odessa. And and the West will not have that because they do not want Moldova and Romania to be friendly towards Russia. So if Russia takes Odessa, Romania, Moldova will have no choice but to become friendly towards Odessa, I mean towards Russia. And if they don't, then they will probably end up becoming like the next Ukraine, which probably they don't want because they've seen what happened to Ukraine, and I don't think they want that to be happening to their countries. So the other reason is Transnistria. You can see the thin strip of land next to Moldova is Transnistria, and that is Russian controlled. So they will link that to the rest of Russia. So that will add more Russian troops and give Russia greater control in that area, more weapons, and also people of Transnistria would be safe. They'll be able to link up with the rest of Russia as well. And this area here, this area which is going to the east of Ukraine, I added this because I think that Putin will want some sort of link to Hungary, sorry. And the reason is, Hungary has got a link to um, all the way to kind of Serbia. So Hungary has got links to Serbia, and if Russia can have a land route to Hungary, then Hungary is also very friendly towards Russia as well. And I think there'll be more trade going on between Hungary, Russia, and Serbia. Serbia can be protected by Russia as well, and also Hungary can be protected by Russia. And I think Russia, Hungary, and Serbia can, with a land route, can become more friendly partners in the future. And there'll be more energy links as well between them as well. And and obviously the West will not want that. The West will be absolutely dying for that not to happen because number one, um, if this happens, then Hungary, Serbia will be more friendly towards Russia. They'll become more under their influence. And other countries in the region, like Romania, Moldova, Bulgaria, will also become um, closer to Russia. And if they don't, then they'll be basically in the crosshairs. They'll be a target, which they don't want to do. And I'm sure they'll be forced to, especially after what's happened to Ukraine, I'm sure these countries will want to be friends with Russia rather than oppose Russia. Um, Bulgaria, unfortunately, is linking its currency to the euro. I think they're doing that over the next few days, which is a bad idea, which means their monetary policy, central banks, everything will be controlled by the EU. And if that's controlled, then their government will be controlled and their foreign policy will be controlled. So Bulgaria might be the next country similar to Ukraine, which the EU and NATO use to um, kind of be a counter towards Russia. So let's hope that isn't the case, but unfortunately, it looks like it's heading along that route. The other countries that's being used by NATO and the EU and America is Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan used to be quite friendly towards Russia, but recently they have become very, very unfriendly towards Russia. They are arresting Russian speakers, they are deporting Russian speakers, and they are cracking down on Russian speakers as well in Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan was also used as a base to attack Iran, so Iran is also not very happy with Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan is very friendly towards Israel. Israel has been providing Azerbaijan a lot of weapons in their war against Armenia. So Azerbaijan has recently become very unfriendly towards Russia. So that could be another danger point for Russia as well as Bulgaria. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Then you also obviously got the kind of Baltic states, Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia. They'll always be enemies towards Russia, little chihuahuas of the West. So that's where we are with Ukraine at the moment, and I think Putin will do what he can to finish the war on his own terms. He's not going to allow America to come in and put ceasefires and all these threats of sanctions in place because Russia has learned from what's happened around the world that they cannot trust America with any sorts of ceasefire. So I'll give you two examples. They did a ceasefire when Russia went into, after 2014, when Russia annexed Crimea and got Crimea as part of its territory, and and Russia was ready to crush Ukraine at that point. Then the Americans and the Europeans came out with the Accords, and they stopped Russia basically. And but they used these accords to buy time, and they used that time to arm Ukraine to the teeth. And now you see, it's a different Ukraine now. They are completely armed to the teeth, and it has cost Russians a lot of Russian lives, a lot of Russian money to kind of put that down. So they are not going to listen to another ceasefire where Ukraine will be rearmed again, and it's basically, they're going to be used as a battering ram to weaken Russia even more. And for Russia, it's going to cost Russia more lives, more money. So Putin is not going to make the same mistake. Another mistake was in Syria, where they agreed on a ceasefire in Syria with the terrorists in Idlib. You know, back then when Russian forces, Iranian forces, and Syrian forces pushed these terrorists all the way to Idlib, and they had a chance to completely finish them off, but they didn't take it because Trump at the time, he basically brokered some sort of ceasefire with the terrorists in Idlib and Russia and Iran and Syria, and they pretty much forgotten about it, and they let these terrorists rearm, and then you've seen what happened to Syria after that. They've rearmed, they've retrained, they used a lot of Ukrainian drones, Ukrainian weapons, and Ukrainians also were training these terrorists as well. So and they took over Syria. So you cannot trust any ceasefire, guys. Not when it comes from the West. West will only want a ceasefire when it benefits them. If it doesn't benefit them, they'll never do a ceasefire. For example, did they do a ceasefire in Iraq when they were winning? No way. If you're in the ascendancy, you do not do a ceasefire. So I think Russia should continue and until they finish the job with the SMO, and then they can have whatever terms they want to finish the war, or they can if they want to change the government, get Zelensky to step down. They will be in a much better position. They will have all the cards, as Trump says. So that's all for now, guys. Hope it was quite interesting, and I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Take care for now. Bye.